That's my daddy. That's definitely one of my favorite songs that we just sang. So many of you know that my dad, Peter, came over from Germany this July to visit. You might also know that he very unexpectedly died. He traveled for a good 26 hours by train, then airplane, and then car. We picked him up at the Minneapolis airport around 8:30 p.m. on July 10th. That was a Wednesday. We got home around 1 a.m. Our daughter Ayanda and our son Josiah, they stayed up waiting to see their Opa. It had been 5 years since they saw him last. It was really a happy reunion. Opa was impressed with the size of our littlest one. My dad, he was born May 10th, 1942, back in Chemnitz, Germany. He grew up as the youngest in his family with 10 siblings. In 1968, he married my mom, Annie Christa. They were married for 20 years before my mom passed away. My dad was also in the army as a young man. Although he remained on the ground, he was with the airmen. By the name, my maiden name, so his last name was Flutter. I would have liked to see the commander's face when he would call my dad. After all, he was Flyer, Flutter. So as far as I know, my dad, all his life, worked as an electrician. And that was really handy back at home. Even my dollhouse had switches and lights installed. And every time after he installed the electrical system in a room, he would go to the switch and check his work with "Let there be light." Usually there was light. And my dad also was a passionate hobby photographer. I think it runs in the family, I guess. Should ask me sometime about some stories. And he also loved gardening, really loved gardening. He would always say, "My garden isn't very wide. It's also not very long, but gee, it's high." So I just wanted to give you a little insight on who my dad was. He reached the beautiful age of 82, and he was battling cancer. But anyhow, his death came really sudden. So he arrived on Wednesday night. In the early morning hours of Thursday, he fell down the stairs to the basement in my house, where we found him a few hours later. But I must share how much I've seen God in everything that has happened. Most of my German family doesn't believe in Jesus Christ and God. I do. My dad's death made a path to share with over 50 people all at once how good God has been. I saw God's hand and God's protection over my whole family. That's why I have peace. I thank God that my 17-year-old daughter didn't find her Opa. And my 15-year-old son didn't find him. I thank God that my God made my husband so strong that he was able to handle the whole situation and still comfort me as well. I thank God that I was able to spend a good 5 hours with my dad after he arrived at the airport on the way home then. And I thank God for fulfilling my dad's wish to see me and at least 2 of his grandkids one more time. I never knew whether or not my dad had ever given his life to Jesus. So, most of all, I thank God that it will not be the last time I will see my dad. But God has confirmed to me that my dad is in heaven for eternity. And I know that one day those who believe in God and his son Jesus will be with him. When it all happened, I was screaming at first. I tried to cry, tried to let the tears roll, but my head would just hurt so bad. But you know, I never asked why. Why was this happening? All I could say was, thank you, Lord.
So just a little bit on Opa that she didn't share with you. Yes, he was a master electrician, but the guy would drive me nuts. If he walked into, say, Joe's house and your light switch is like 8 inches from where he thought it should be, you would go out in the cranberry marsh and come home and find a hole in the wall, and the switch was moved. And I'm like, Opa, why did you do that? Because I'm an electrician. I'm not a drywaller. That's where I learned how to plug up holes really good, Joe. But when Opa passed, I called Scott right away. Thank God he didn't answer the phone because he was celebrating the birth of their daughter. But Justin called. He called maybe 30 minutes after it actually happened. And he said, I just called to pray for you. And I said, awesome. We always need prayer. So he prayed a beautiful prayer. But when he hung up, I turned to Heike and she had a smile on her face. And I'm like, how are you smiling? And she says, well, Justin prayed. I had my eyes closed and I was just talking to the Lord. And all of a sudden she was taken to this long, long hallway. And it had pillars, pillar after pillar after pillar as she looked down. And at the very end was a throne. And on the throne a voice came and he said, he was one stubborn one, but now he's mine. He's with me. Down this road I can see there's a bright light shining for me. It's far away and its pull is strong. One day this old road won't seem so long. I've been past many signs that have led me to this place, and I know I'm on the right road to the day when I won't need these things. And when that morning finally gets here, and I've reached my journey's end, I'll be waiting at the gates for them to open and take me in. For them to open and take Opa in. Thank you.